Welcome to the DMF. I'm Justin Younts. This is part one. Okay, I have a guest with me today, actually two guests. They are a duo composer. I have Kevin Henthorne and Michelle Bursky, who you may know. They have just recently done the Terminator Zero soundtrack, the score. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks. Um, so first off, where'd you guys grow up?
You go first.
I grew up in Connecticut, outside of New York City, and spent a lot of time in Vermont as a kid.
And I'm a Mainer. I grew up in Freeport, Maine. So if you've ever been
Oh.
to LL Bean, you've been to my town.
Were you guys always interested in film or scoring?
I went to film school actually, so I've been obsessed with film for most of my life, and I was in bands throughout all of my life as well. So it's kind of crazy that it's taken this long for me to like connect the two. Because like when I went to film school, I wasn't scoring anybody's film,
Hmm.
even though I should have been. But I've been obsessed with film whole life.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm also I came late to it. I think music was my first passion, just songwriting for the most part. And then as time progressed and as I started a band and tried to, do the whole touring band thing, I started scoring people's indie films and realized that that was where my heart really wanted to go.
And were you guys both like in the New York scene, the music scene there?
Yeah, we lived in Bushwick for like 6, 7 years.
Yeah, I know that
Um,
area.
I do miss New York quite a bit, but yeah, I did a lot of shows in that time.
Cool, cool. Um, so like, what was like the first musical instrument that you guys like kind of fell in love with?
Man, I played the violin in elementary school and then I gave it
Wow.
up because they made you pick between orchestra and choir. And I
Wow.
was also a singer and really wanted to sing. And I gave up the violin, which I still regret to this day because it would be very useful
Yeah.
to have that.
Yeah.
Um, but that was and then guitar was my next.
Do you think you would have do you think you'll ever go back to the violin, or do you think it's like one of those instruments that like once you kind of lose it, it takes a little while to get back?
Yeah, I could try, I think do I have the discipline to learn a new instrument at this age?
Mm.
And there's so many impressive, talented, string players in LA that I'm like, I'll hire someone. So
Yeah. I was a guitarist growing up, so I started playing guitar when I was 9. I think I tried to play the saxophone before that, and I was like, I'm not very good at it. Uh, but yeah, I've just been a guitarist forever.
Yeah. Yeah, I started learning guitar this year. That was like one of my New Year's resolutions because I play piano as well as sing. So I was like, I want to like write music, and I find the more and more I read biographies, it always starts with the guitar.
Yeah,
And it's true when the guitar is such an interesting instrument to like learn to play, to learn to like write music
yeah,
because you just don't have all the technicalities that you have with the piano where you have like this chord here and then this chord here and and then all these notes. It's just yeah. So I listened to Mother Android. I really liked what you guys did with that because it reminded me a lot of the opening score of Prometheus and a little bit of Vox Machina, where like
mm,
that feel
that's awesome. Yeah, that score Matson wanted something really sparse. He kind of wanted it to just sound like there's two people in a room banging pots and pans and just like which we did some of. But we wanted to feel like the isolation of the journey that they were on. So we kept it really minimal.
Yeah.
A lot of bowed guitar for the drones, just open tuning, acoustic, and you get this like kind of nice, like it almost sometimes sounds like a whiny bagpipe in a way. It's a weird quality, but I love doing that. And yeah, that one, I mean, we paired that with vocals and piano and more just to acoustic guitar. We kept it really simple.
Mm, mm. What did you find by doing that score that you brought to other work?
Mm. I think it was a pandemic score. We were moving cross country in the beginning of it, and we were really scrappy. It wasn't the biggest budget of all time, and we kind of made it work. And it was also like just a really exciting opportunity for us. It was our first like studio feature, and but I think the scrappiness that we brought to it, like we come from the indie world, like we know how to be resourceful and using a lot of found sound elements and sampling wooden hits and like literal pots and pans, and creating our own samples in that way was really empowering. And I think it was nice to bring we kind of did a similar thing. We've done a similar thing in a lot of the projects we've done so far, but Terminator in particular,
Yeah.
we did a lot of the same, like creating our own wooden samples, stick hits, and having that sort of be the bed of the percussion. So yeah, I feel like that was one of the main
Yeah, we
things.
learned a lot of that. And I will say also just like confidence. Like we got that was a really big project for us to get, and then it was like, okay, we can do this, and I feel like it really helped us moving forward.
So when you were sampling like sounds, would you like in here, or would you go to like a studio and sample it? Like how would
No,
you?
no, this is our like home studio. We would just do it kind of
Yeah.
just do
Well,
whatever.
at the time, we
Yes.
were Arizona.
Yeah.
It was 2020, and we were moving cross country from New York to LA, and we were staying at my parents' house in Arizona for a few months in the summer. And it was like 110
Ooh.
degrees out, and we didn't
Yeah.
go outside all summer. And we were trying to get this job. So we wrote a ton of music, and like we're sampling in my mom's office space. Like it was with I don't even know what mic we were using, like close range,
Maybe the amethyst.
maybe the amethyst, and like sampling their pots and pans and whatever we could find within the house. It was so scrappy, and like, and we used it, we kept it all.
Yeah, a lot of those demos stuck. So on that project, we scored to the script with like 19 tracks or something, and then Mattson really fell in love with it, and then like they were on set. The DP like was listening to it while they were shooting. It was very cool to be that integrated, but a lot of those demos stuck. So a lot of that scrappiness was just
Baked in.
baked
Yeah.
in.
So now let's get to what was it about Terminator Zero that interests you guys?
Well, we found out that again, we kind of just like jumped the gun a little bit. We found out that Mattson was doing uh, an anime Terminator. This
And
was
for context, Mattson is Mattson Tomlin, who's the showrunner of Terminator, and he also was the writer director of Mother Android, the last, the
we
film
were
that we
we
were
were finishing Mother Android, and we found out that that was going to be his next thing, and completely unsolicited, we just were like, what does that sound like? What does Mattson plus Terminator plus anime sound like? And we had some downtime because I think we were waiting for like notes to come back. We had like a couple weeks, and we just put together a group of demos that we thought were really cool, and that was really fun to like have first go at something. Like Mattson hadn't even started writing it yet, so it's just like very cool to try something that we just thought was cool, and we didn't end up getting the job for another like
couple years.
year and a half, 2 years,
Yeah.
something insane. So like a lot of those demos, or some of those demos stuck, and yeah, I don't know. I just think also what Mattson ended up doing with the project was just so rooted in family and love, and I don't know, I just I really love the story. So later when we got a chance to really dive into the story, I got very interested from that angle.
So when you're coming up with demos for that, did you have any idea of where he was going with anything?
No.
No.
We had
So
Mattson, Terminator, anime. And that was it.
So would you just kind of like, so I imagine you had to have like sat down and like watch the films. I know you just like watched just the first two
Pretty
and like
much.
look at like, this is what they're doing here. How can we be different? I imagine it's kind of,
Yeah, and a lot of especially the first one, like it's there's some it's kind of dated. I don't want to use
yeah,
the word to like, but like there are
it's
moments
80s.
specifically in like the action sequences where it's like, oh, well, that wouldn't really necessarily fly today.
Mhm.
And so like there was clear places where we wanted to differ things up a little bit, but also we just wanted something moodier, sadder, and a little more modern. Like,
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how we came up with the idea to make it super moody though, and I don't know.
I
It's
mean,
so weird. I'm like not sure what
Mhm.
influenced what because this music was written like before the script was written and then he was writing
Yeah.
the script to it. So I'm like, where did
yeah, the demos were
it's
2021,
bizarre. Um,
right? 2020, March of 2021,
yeah.
I think.
I remember hearing about the idea in like, I think the end of 2020. There's like, at that time, you know, Dark Fate had been a flop. And it was like, well, we're going to try this. We're going to try an anime and just see what happens. And it was probably the best thing because they left Matson alone with it so that he could just do what he
Yeah,
wants.
exactly.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of like Matson ran the ship and I mean between him and Studio IG that were animating, like they're the ones who were making the decisions and Netflix, it was like Skydance wasn't like a huge part of it. It was like tons of
No.
freedom to do what you want to do. And
Very hands
I
off.
mean, it paid off because it is it's a very
Yeah,
interesting take.
it's to me it's the best take we've seen of that franchise. Because for the longest time I was almost like, is this even a franchise? Because it just
I
seems like
know.
they just keep doing the same thing over and over. And then I saw this and I was like, okay, this is a chance for them to do something interesting with it. If they just leave them alone, it should be good. And
Yeah.
you know, lo and behold, it ended up
Yeah.
being good. You know, can you give me an example of one of the musical cues that you said that wouldn't work today from the film? I'm just curious.
I don't know, just like there was some like maybe probably like one of the earlier action sequences in T1.
Hmm.
I feel like it's just so clearly. I mean, it would work in like a retro '80s thing if you're doing a throwback, but it just
Yeah.
sounds so of the time '80s that I
Yeah.
feel like you couldn't go about scoring it the same way today. And that's not to undercut. Like it's an amazing score. I don't mean any of that
Yeah.
like as a backhand, but I think that was something like we wanted to use um, a lot of synths, some of them 80s synths, but we just wanted to use them in a slightly, I don't know, I don't know how to describe.
I think it's darker, more like a darker modern, um, more the only word I can think of is more Radioheady kind of way.
Yeah. I wanted to talk a little bit about this. You guys listen to what was it? Kid A
Yeah,
and
chemically.
everything at its right place. And as I was preparing for this, I would listen to that. You know, I was like, oh, okay, I see where they were coming from with this feeling. Was there something else that I mean, you've talked about it, and I've gotten certain scores that you've got to. There was another score that like you used and said we want to do something like that, but different.
I think there were places that we took inspiration just in terms of maybe instrumentation or vibe. I think Johan Johansson was a big one for us. Sicario and
Mm,
Arrival are both scores that we really love,
Yeah.
and we always loved, before working on this. But he just had such a way of like, I can't even,
Foreboding doom.
yeah, doom,
yeah,
darkness, making you really feel that sense of, yeah, foreboding. And a lot of his like synth work was super interesting and the way he used instruments in a way like that was not typical.
Yeah,
yeah.
A lot of pitch bending, a lot of, yeah, so we were definitely inspired by his
yeah,
work.
for sure.
Was there anything else that we were like,
Been a while since I've thought about
I know.
it.
Really?
It's been a second.
I mean, it's sad that that composer is no longer with us because
I
he had
know.
such an interesting. I mean, if you listen to some of his, it's not really a soundtrack, but just like his orchestral work, you can hear those dark tones. It's beautiful.
I know. I always think if he had still been alive, like I wonder if he would have gotten Dune, because he worked a lot with that director.
Yeah.
And what Dune would have been with the score of
Mhm.
his, it would have been so cool.
Well, you know what happened was he was actually scoring Blade Runner 2049, and
Cool.
they just couldn't come to a term of like, I don't know, they just didn't agree. So that's how kind of Hans Zimmer came on and
Oh, so they split that.
Bims, yeah.
Wow.
So that was kind of, I think, the split between Denis Villeneuve. It's
Damn.
kind of like with, Christopher Nolan, Hans Zimmer
Yeah.
couldn't do
I didn't
Tenet,
know that story. Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and he went to Ludwig Göransson. I mean,
Right.
Which was
that was
And
what I
now I
wrote
love
down.
genius move because
Yeah,
Love Ludwig. That's so rad.
yeah. When I was listening to it, it reminded to Terminator Zero. It reminded me of Oppenheimer came to mind. Donnie Darko came to mind. Michael Andrews.
Nice.
I had a list of things, and I
Damn,
just
well, both of those.
on all those things.
Thanks, dude.
yeah, Ludwig's one
there
of
it
my
is.
favorites.
And Graham Revell's from The Crow,
Oh, nice.
Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's The Social Network, as well as Gone Girl. These are all the things that kind of like went through my head as I was listening to it. There's actually one time I thought, am I listening to Oppenheimer? I was like, oh, no, I'm listening to this one. What did you guys take from the T2 score? Because I've heard you talk about the T1 score, but did you take anything from the T? It's a different score, but
Yeah. I mean, we took the drum pattern for that one
Yeah.
cue. The IG really wanted it, so we incorporated
Yeah.
it. I mean, we're glad we did, but
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was kind of it. They are similar scores. It's just that T2 is a lot more orchestral and like it's much bigger. They had a much bigger budget.
yeah.
So, we did stay away from like an orchestral feel, and instead we used choir as our sort of like real instruments because we did want it to be a very electronic feel. Though I think there is some choir in T2 as well.
There is. Yeah, there is for specific moments.
But yeah, I think, man, we watched the two films,
Yeah.
T1 and T2, which we'd always been big fans of anyway. But before writing the score, we watched them, and then I think we kind of just dropped it. Like,
Yeah.
we weren't
that's a good
like,
idea.
actively going back and like listening to their scores. We just sort of like, we're like, great, we love those movies, we love those scores. We're gonna drop it, and we're gonna move on and see what we can come up with.
It goes. Yeah, because I like the reinvention of the theme, and I'm glad you really only needed it at that end of that first episode because it just kind of bookends and says, yes, this is Terminator.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You are watching Terminator.
Yeah. We felt strongly about doing it that one time and one time only.
Yeah. You don't need it because as we get into some more of the themes, you guys created your own theme. And I think it's just it was very similar to the love theme in the first Terminator to me. Like just that thing that kind of you hear it also in T2 as well. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.